The sky above Nerith was silver with light as the twin suns began to set. From the high tower of the Crystal Palace, Queen Zira looked out over the grand square where thousands of people had gathered. Ships from many worlds floated in the air. Above, their banners shining with color. It was the day of challenge, and the queen had called every warrior and hunter from across the stars. Beside the queen stood her daughter, Princess Elia. She wore a robe of shining blue cloth, and her eyes were calm. Though her heart was heavy, she did not speak. But she knew what her mother was about to say. Everyone knew. It had been whispered across the city for weeks. Queen Zira raised her hand, and the crowd fell silent. "My people," she said, her voice strong and clear. "The time of waiting is over. The void beast must be stopped." A murmur passed through the crowd. "The creature has destroyed 3 of our colonies," the queen continued. "It has taken lives. It has burned fields and silenced voices. We have sent our finest, and they have not returned." Faces in the crowd turned grim. They remembered the lost ships, the screams, the empty silence that followed. But now, Queen Zira said, "We must act. The people cry for hope. The stars demand justice." She paused. "I make this promise. Whoever slays the void beast and returns with proof shall earn the highest reward in this kingdom. That one shall have the right to marry my daughter, Princess Elia." Gasps filled the air. Some were shocked, others cheered. Many shouted their names, eager for the challenge. Elia lowered her eyes. She had not been asked. Her mother had made the choice for her. It was the old way, the royal way, still. A part of her hoped someone worthy would come forward, someone brave, someone kind. Across the square, warriors stepped forward. One wore heavy armor and carried a giant blade. Another floated on a cloud of light, his body glowing with power. A third had robotic arms that clicked with sharp fingers. Each one made bold promises. Each one believed they would win. But then, someone else stepped forward. He was not tall or glowing. He did not wear armor or carry a blade. His clothes were simple. His boots were dusty. His face was calm. He looked around 30 cycles old and walked like he had seen many roads. "I will go," he said. The crowd went quiet. The queen raised an eyebrow. "Your name?" she asked. "Terran," he said. "I am from Earth." "Earth?" Someone laughed. "That backwater planet?" More laughter followed. The Varel noble scoffed. "A human against the void beast? Impossible. You carry no weapon." The queen said, "You have no title. Why? Should we trust you?" Terran looked up at her. "Because I do not fear the creature," he said. "I want to stop it, not for reward, but because it must be done." His voice was steady. He did not shout. He did not try to impress anyone. "Princess." Elia looked at him closely. There was something different in his eyes. Not pride. Not hunger for power. Just truth. Queen Zira studied him for a moment longer. "Very well," she said at last. "You may try. A ship will be prepared. But I will not send you with our best tools. You must face this with what you have. If you die, it is not on our hands." Terran nodded. "That is fair." He turned and walked away without waiting for cheers or questions. The crowd parted as he passed. Some whispered, others shook their heads. A few laughed again. But Princess Elia watched him go, and her thoughts did not laugh. Later that night, in the quiet garden of the palace, Elia spoke to her mother. "Why promise my hand?" she asked. "Why use me as a prize?" Queen Zira sighed. "The people are afraid," she said. "They need a reason to hope. If a warrior wins your hand, he becomes one of us. He becomes part of the bloodline. It gives them something to believe in. But what if none return?" Elia asked. "Then we will try again," the queen said. Elia looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the creature waited. Somewhere. That human Terran was already planning. She did not know why, but she hoped he would return. Far from the palace, Terran walked through the lower docks of the city. He found his small ship, the Iron Wind, still parked where he had left it. It was old, but strong. It had seen battles. It had crossed dark space. It would do inside. He opened a hidden case and pulled out a set of tools, some old scanners. and a black box wrapped in cloth. He unwrapped it and looked at what was inside: a picture of a colony on fire, a Varel cruiser above it, the mark of the void beast below. Ian clenched his jaw. This was not just a mission for glory. It was a mission for something more. He turned on the engine. The ship began to rise. Lights flashed across the console. A soft hum filled the air. Terran looked once more at the city of Nerith. Then he flew toward the stars. Harvin sat on a round chair in a glowing room filled with strange lights and floating decorations. He did not know what kind of place it was, but everything looked expensive and royal. The walls shimmered like water. The floor was soft under his boots, yet it gave no sound when he walked. He had just made a mistake. A big one. The sacred bonding gesture. That was what they called it. A movement of the hands that meant something deep and serious to the Zarini. People, Harvin had no idea. He had only tried to copy what others were doing. He wanted to show respect. He wanted to blend in. Now, the alien queen believed they were mated. He still could not believe it. He was just a technician. He worked with wires and machines. He fixed doors when they stopped opening. He was not a leader. He was not a warrior. And now he was tied to a queen from another world. The door opened. A tall Zarini servant entered the room. Her skin was silver blue and her hair floated behind her like smoke. "You are summoned," she said softly. Harvin stood up. His legs felt weak, but he nodded and followed her. They walked through long halls with glowing windows. Zarini guards stood at every corner, silent and still. Other servants watched him with wide eyes. Some looked surprised, some looked angry, a few even smiled. Harvin did not understand their expressions. He did not understand anything anymore. Finally, the servant stopped in front of a large door made of dark glass. It opened with a soft sound. Inside was a round room with soft cushions, a low table, and many candles floating in the air. Queen Azera stood at the center. She was no longer wearing her armor. Instead, she wore a simple robe of silver and green. Her eyes watched him carefully, but her face showed no anger. "Come," she said. Harvin stepped forward slowly. "I want to say sorry," he began. "I didn't know what that gesture meant. I wasn't trying to propose." Azera raised her hand gently. "I believe you," she said. Harvin stopped speaking. That was not what he expected. "I watched your face," she said. "You were confused, not bold. You were copying others, not claiming me." "Then it was all a mistake," he said with relief. "But," she added, "once a sacred gesture is made and accepted, it cannot be undone." Harvin stared at her. "Even if it was an accident?" "Yes," she said. "To undo it would mean disrespect to the queen. It would cause shame before all the noble houses. It would start problems." Harvin sat down slowly on a cushion. He felt dizzy again. "So what happens now?" he asked. "We follow the rite of days," she said. 7 days of shared time. After that, if both agree, the bond becomes true. And if we don't agree, then the bond is released. You return to your life. I return to mine. No shame, no punishment." Harvin rubbed his eyes. "I'm not sure I belong here," he said quietly. Azera looked at him. "You are not like the others," she said. "You did not come here to win favor. You did not try to impress. And yet, you now stand in a place none of them could reach." Harvin looked up at her. Her voice was calm but strong. There was no hate in it, no anger, only curiosity. She sat across from him. "Tomorrow begins the first of the 7 days," she said. "You will join me for morning meal. Then we visit the old archives. I will show you the roots of our world." Harvin gave a small nod. "All right, I'll come." "Good," she said. She stood and walked toward the door. As she left, she stopped. For a moment, "There's more to this than fate," she said. "Perhaps there is something hidden behind your mistake." The door closed behind her. Harvin sat alone for a while. The soft lights above flickered like stars. He leaned back against the cushion and looked up. He remembered when he first joined the Unity. He had only wanted a quiet job. He did not want attention. Now he was part of a royal tradition he did not understand. He laughed softly to himself. How did this even happen? he whispered. Outside, on the royal balconies, nobles whispered among themselves. The queen had accepted a human. Some were angry. Some were afraid. Others saw a chance for change. In the dark corners of the court, plans were already starting to form. The next morning, Harvin woke early. A servant led him to a bright hall where the queen waited. She wore formal robes now, with a small symbol on her shoulder. It looked like a pair of wings inside a circle. Sit, she said. They ate fruits that glowed and drank tea that tasted like mint and stone. Harvin was quiet, unsure of what to say. Azera spoke little, but her eyes watched him often. After the meal, they walked together through the royal gardens. Plants from many worlds grew there. Some floated, some sang, some even moved as they passed. Harvin saw a tree that looked like glass, yet it grew small glowing orbs. He touched one carefully. It is called the memory tree, Azera said. It grows only in places of peace. Harvin nodded. It's beautiful. You are the first human to see it, she said. They walked on. The path curved toward a wide building with high doors. It was the archive, where the oldest records of the Zarini were kept. As they entered, Azera turned to him. Now we begin, she said. If we are to share time, we must share knowledge. Harvin looked up at the tall shelves and strange symbols on the walls. He still did not know what was waiting for him, but a small part of him wanted to find out. Maybe, just maybe, this accident had opened a door to something much bigger. The sky over Zarine was a soft mix of silver and blue. The sun shone gently from above. Their light filtered through floating clouds. Birds with crystal-like wings flew between tall towers. The palace stood high above the city, glowing with peace and quiet beauty. Inside the grand building, Harvin walked beside Queen Azera. It was his second day in the palace. He still felt out of place. Everything was polished and perfect. He was just a technician from a space station. He had never worn royal clothes, never used golden plates, and had never been called a chosen mate before. They were walking into the grand archive, a round building filled with glowing shelves, memory scrolls, and floating light orbs. The air smelled like old paper and sweet oil. Azera looked around with calm eyes. This is the oldest part of our world, she said. It holds stories from before we had starships. Before we even knew the stars could be reached. Harvin followed her quietly. He did not know how to act in such places. His hands stayed at his sides. His eyes moved carefully. Azera stopped at a large glass wall. Behind it was a mural made of tiny glowing stones. It showed a Zarini queen holding hands with a human. That is a story, she said, of the first joining. Harvin raised an eyebrow. A human? Yes, Azera said. Long ago. A single human ship crashed here. The pilot survived. He helped stop a fire that was destroying our southern forests. Our queen at the time gave him the bonding gesture. He accepted. So this has happened before? Harvin asked. Azera nodded. Only once. She turned to face him. Perhaps. This is why the elders agreed to the trial. Perhaps they hope history will repeat. Harvin looked at the glowing stones. The human in the picture looked strong and proud. Not like him. I'm not a hero, he said. I'm just a guy who fixes things. Azera's voice was gentle. Sometimes it is not the strongest person who makes the biggest change. Sometimes it is the quiet one. They moved deeper into the archive. At each section, Azera explained parts of Zarini history about their world's beginning, their wars, their peace, and their search among the stars. Harvin listened. He asked questions. He learned quickly. After an hour, they reached a small room with old tools and machines. Most of them looked broken. These were used before our engines became alive, Azera said. Harvin's eyes lit up. He stepped forward. This one, he said, pointing, is missing its power relay. Azera looked curious. Can you fix it? Harvin smiled. I think so. He rolled up his sleeves and picked up the tool gently. A nearby panel flickered. He found a spare part inside it, cleaned it with a cloth, and carefully connected it. The machine made a soft sound. Then it lit up. As air raised an eyebrow. Impressive. Harvin laughed. Sometimes I understand machines better than people. Azera gave him a rare smile. Then perhaps you will understand our people soon, too. They left the room and returned to the garden. The light had changed. The suns were lower now. The flowers were beginning to close. Tomorrow, Azera said, we will go beyond the palace. I want you to see the world as our people live it. Harvin nodded. I'd like that. As she walked away, Harvin sat on a stone bench under a glowing tree. His hands were still dusty from the machine. He looked up at the sky. The day had felt peaceful. Azera was not cold. She was calm, but not distant. She explained things well. She listened when he spoke. She was not what he expected from a queen. For the first time since arriving, Harvin didn't feel like a prisoner of his mistake. He felt like maybe he had a place here. That night, in her private chamber, Azera stood near her tall window. She looked out over the city, thinking, the human was not like others. He was not trying to impress her. He asked simple questions. He smiled when he learned something new. He did not speak too much or try to flatter her. He fixed an old machine. With care and pride, Azera's hand touched the bonding symbol on her wrist. It had appeared the moment she accepted his gesture, a mark only she could see, a mark that warmed softly when he was near. She closed her eyes. Was it a mistake, or was it fate? The next morning, Harvin wore a simple white tunic given to him by the palace. It was soft and light. The guards nodded to him with more respect now. He met Azera near the transport wing. We are visiting the city's core, she said. You will see the people, the streets, the lives behind the palace. The flying pod took them down through clouds and between buildings. The city was full of color, music, and laughter. Zarini of all ages walked through markets. Children chased floating toys. Old teachers spoke to young students in open courtyards. They landed in a park where trees glowed with soft red light. A small group of people gathered near Azera. Some bowed, some waved. Harvin stood quietly beside her. One young girl stepped forward and asked, "Is this your chosen?" Azera looked at Harvin, then nodded. "He is my trial partner." The girl looked at him and smiled. "You are lucky. She is the best queen ever." Harvin smiled back. "Yes, I think I'm starting to see that." Later, they walked along the riverside. Azera pointed to an old bridge. "My father built that," she said, "before he passed the crown to me." Harvin looked at her face. There was something softer in her eyes now. "You miss him," he said. "Yes," she replied. "He taught me to listen before speaking, to lead with both strength and heart." Harvin was quiet for a moment. "I think you're doing that well," he said. Azera looked at him with calm eyes. For the first time, she seemed to see more than just a visitor, maybe even a companion. As the second day ended, both the queen and the technician felt something had shifted. The bond that began as a mistake now held a new meaning, and neither of them was ready to walk away. The morning sun rose softly over the shining city of Zareen IV. Golden light touched the palace towers, and soft wind moved through the trees of the royal garden. The third day of the bonding trial had begun. Harvin stood in front of a mirror, trying to fix the collar of his tunic. His fingers didn't work well with fancy clothes. He missed his old jacket from the ship, full of oil stains and worn patches. Still, he was getting used to this new world. Each day felt less strange. Each moment with Queen Azera brought something new. Today, he would join her in the council hall. Azera had told him the night before, "You must see how we lead. Not all things happen in gardens and open skies." Harvin had nodded. But deep inside, he was nervous. He was just a technician. What could he possibly say in a room full of leaders? Two guards came to take him. They walked him through wide marble halls filled with glowing lights and soft music. He reached a tall door, and it opened slowly. Inside was the council hall. It was round, with rows of seats that circled a raised platform in the center. On that platform stood Queen Azera, dressed in her royal robe, her head held high. She looked at Harvin and gave a small nod. He walked forward and stood beside her. The room felt quiet. A tall Zarini noble stepped forward. His name was Lord Zaran. His eyes were sharp, and his voice cold. "Your Majesty," he said. "Many of us still question this human's place here. The sacred bonding gesture is not a joke." Azera answered calmly, "I never said it was a joke. That is why we follow. The right of days." Another noble, Lady Venya, stood up. "But is he worthy of such a bond? He does not know our ways. He comes from a world without wings or song." Harvin felt heat rise in his face. He opened his mouth. But Azera spoke first. "Do not measure worth by titles," she said. "When we met, he did not try to win favor. He did not lie. He simply helped. That is what I value." The room stayed silent. Harven finally spoke. His voice was quiet but steady. "I didn't come here to cause trouble. I made a mistake, yes, but I stayed because I respect your queen. And now, I'm trying to learn." Some heads turned, some eyes softened, others stayed cold. After the meeting, Azera and Harvin walked through a quiet hallway. The queen looked tired. "You handled yourself well," she said. "I just told the truth," Harvin replied. She looked at him with a hint of a smile. "That is not always easy in places like this." They stepped out into the balcony. The sky was bright now. A gentle wind touched their faces. Harvin leaned on the railing. "Do they all hate me?" Azera shook her head. "Not all. Some fear change. Some hold to the past too tightly. But change often starts with a small step." Harvin turned toward her. "And what if this trial ends and we both walk away? Then we part in peace," she said. "But something tells me it won't be that simple." Just then, a servant came running. She whispered something in Azera's ear. The queen's face grew serious. "There is a matter in the lower city," she said. "A broken water system. People are struggling." "I can help," Harvin said quickly. "That's what I'm good at." Azera looked at him for a moment. Then she nodded. "Come with me." The lower city was not like the palace. The streets were narrow. The walls were old. People moved with tired steps. The water system was old. Tech, half mechanical and half living. A crack had stopped the flow to many homes. Azera spoke with the local leaders. Harvin crouched beside the main pipe, studying it. "It's not hard to fix," he said, "but the control panel needs rewiring." He pulled out his small toolkit. His hands moved fast. Children gathered around, watching him work. After 20 minutes, the pipe made a loud click. Water began to flow again. Cheers filled the street. Harvin stood up, wiping sweat from his forehead. A little girl handed him a small fruit. "For you," she said shyly. He smiled and took it. Azera watched from a distance. Her eyes held something soft, something warm. She saw not just a human in strange clothes. She saw a man who helped without being asked, who smiled without pretending. When they returned to the palace, it was already dark. Harvin was tired, but happy. Azera walked beside him in silence. "Today," she said at last, "you did more than speak. You showed them who you are." Harvin looked at her. "Did it help?" "It did," she replied. They stopped near the garden. Stars were beginning to shine above them. "You know," Harvin said, "I thought I didn't belong here. But now, I think maybe I do." Azera turned to him. Her golden eyes caught the starlight. "Maybe you were meant to," she said softly. For a moment, they stood in silence. The world around them faded. The bond that had started by accident was now growing by choice. The trial was not over yet. There were still days ahead. But something had changed, not in rules, not in law, but in the heart. The next morning came with golden light across the sky. Birds flew in slow circles over the palace towers. In the royal garden, fresh dew sat on the glowing leaves. But something in the air felt different. The peace of the past few days was now heavy with quiet tension. Harvin stood in the training yard. A Zarini guard named Roland handed him a practice spear. "You hold it like this," Roland said, showing the grip. "We do not fight often, but the bondmate of a queen must know how to stand with honor." Harvin tried to copy him. His hands fumbled a bit, but he kept going. Across the yard, Queen Azera watched. She sat on a bench made of white stone. Her robe was lighter today, and her expression was calm but thoughtful. "You learn quickly," she called. Harvin smiled. Maybe because I fall quickly too. He lost his balance for a second and stumbled. The spear clattered to the floor. A few guards chuckled, but not unkindly. Azera stood and walked toward him. You do not need to be a warrior, she said, but I admire that you try. I want to understand, Harvin said. Your world, your ways, everything. She looked at him for a long moment, then walked with me. They left the training yard and walked through a hallway. Covered with crystal lights, the walls shimmered like water. They passed murals of past rulers, great events, and strange beasts no longer alive. I have something to show you, Azera said. They entered a quiet chamber deep in the palace. It held a large, glowing orb floating in the center. Small dots moved across its surface. Some blinked, some stayed still. This is the star map, she said. It shows every known world in our part of the galaxy. Harvin stepped closer. He saw Earth marked in a soft blue. Zareen IV glowed golden. Azera pointed to another dot. This world was once full of life, but war took it. Now it is silent. Harvin felt a chill. What happened? Too many voices wanted power. None wanted peace, she said. He looked at her. Is that what the council fears? That my presence could bring something like that? Some fear change, some fear weakness, she said. But true strength is not in fear. It is in trust. Just then, a loud chime echoed through the room. A servant rushed in. My queen, he said, bowing low. A message from the outer post. A ship was seen near the old border. No flag, no signal. Azera's face turned serious. Send scouts. Quietly, she said. I want to know who they are. The servant nodded and left. Azera turned to Harvin. Trouble often hides in silence. Later that evening, during a small palace meal, news arrived. The unknown ship had entered orbit. Still no message, no flag. Lord Saran requested an emergency meeting. The queen agreed. In the council hall, nobles spoke with sharp voices. They come to test us, one said, or to see if we have grown weak. Another added. Azera raised her hand, and the room fell silent. We will not fire first, she said, but we will prepare. Harvin sat at the edge of the room. He could feel the weight of the moment. These were not simple arguments. These were decisions that could lead to peace or battle. After the meeting, Azera met him in the garden. The moon above was full and glowing. This may be nothing, she said, or it may be everything. Harvin looked at her. What can I do? Just stay near, she said. The next day, the ship sent a message. It was not friendly. The voice was cold and robotic. We seek the queen. She holds a key we need. Send her to us, alone. The council was shocked. Saran shouted, It is a trap. They want to take her. Harvin felt his hands clench. You're not going. Azera looked at him with calm strength. No, I am not. But deep inside, she knew something else. The voice had sounded familiar. Long ago, during her travels as a young princess, she had visited a broken station near the edge of space. There, she had helped free workers held by a machine-led group. She had destroyed the control system herself. That voice, it matched the one she had heard then. Now they had returned. That night, she walked alone through the quiet halls. She passed sleeping guards and silent gardens. Harvin saw her from his window and followed. He caught up to her near the old fountain. You're thinking of going, he said. She did not lie. If I go, they may leave the city alone. Harvin stepped in front of her. If you go, I go. Azera shook her head. This is my world, not yours. But I made the bonding gesture, he said, and that means I stand with you, not behind you. She looked at him for a long time. Then, for the first time, she placed her hand over his. We faced this together, as the stars above them shimmered and the strange ship floated in silent orbit. Harvin and Azera stood united. The trial had become more than a test of hearts. Now, it was a trial of courage. And the bond between them was no longer a mistake. It was a promise. A cold wind blew across the palace towers. The sky above Zareen had turned darker than usual. The strange ship still floated in orbit, silent but threatening. The people of the city watched the skies with worry. Soldiers stood ready, weapons charged but still hidden. The queen had ordered no attack unless the enemy made the first move. Inside the palace war room, Queen Azera stood before a wide screen. Harvin stood beside her. Round them were generals, advisors, and council members. A map of the city's sky and defense systems flickered before them. "Their ship has strong shields," said one general. "If they attack, we cannot stop them." Quickly, "They want the queen," said Lady Venya, "and they said she must come alone." Lord Zeron crossed his arms. "That is the part I do not like." Harvin spoke for the first time in the meeting. "They think she is alone. Let's show them she is not." Some council members frowned. Others looked curious. Azera turned to Harvin. "You have an idea?" He nodded. "You said they fear weakness, so let's give them something to fear." A plan began to form. Azera listened closely and added her own touches. The queen was wise, and Harvin was clever in his own way. The two minds worked well together. By the end of the meeting, the queen gave the order. "We will not give in to threats," she said, "but we will respond with strength and with unity." That night, the city prepared. Special fighters were hidden in clouds. Shields were placed around the palace. Light signals were set up across the sky to send secret messages. Harvin went to the underground chamber, where old machines from the last war were stored. With the help of Zarini engineers, he worked to repair a device called the voice mirror. It could reflect and copy signals. It hadn't been used in years. He wiped sweat from his forehead and smiled when it finally powered up. "That's one more piece ready," he said. Meanwhile, Azera stood in her room, looking at the stars. Her royal robe was off. She wore only a simple cloak. She looked less like a queen and more like a warrior. There was a soft knock. Harvin entered. "You're really going out there," he said. "I must." She answered. He stepped closer. Then, "I'm coming too." She looked into his eyes. "This may be a one-way path." "I don't care," he said. "Where you go, I go." A long silence followed. Then, softly, she said, "Thank you." The next morning, the sky was still. The city below waited. A single ship rose from the royal docks, small, sleek, and silver. Inside it, Azera sat in the front, Harvin beside her. Neither wore royal colors. They looked like travelers' dot as the ship moved higher. Azera sent a signal to the enemy ship. "I come alone," as requested. There was no answer. The ship opened its docking gate. The Zarini ship entered slowly. Inside, it was dark. Cold lights glowed on the walls. Strange machines lined the halls. No living crew could be seen. Only metal eyes watched them. A voice spoke through the walls. It was the same robotic voice as before. "Welcome, Queen Azera. You have come wisely. Do not resist." She did not reply. They stepped out of their ship. A round platform rose beneath them and carried them into a larger chamber. Lights flashed, and walls closed behind them. Then, a figure appeared. It was not fully machine, nor fully alive. Part of it looked once human, but wires ran through its skin. Its voice was dry and slow. "You destroyed our system long ago," it said. "Now, we return to complete our mission." Azera stood tall. "I saved innocent lives. You held them like tools." The machine figure moved closer. "We are the voice of control. We seek no war. We seek order. Give us the key." "I hold no key," Azera said. "You do," the voice replied. "It is inside you. Your blood remembers." Harvin stepped in front of her. "You want her. You go through me." The machine laughed. A hollow sound. "You are weak." Suddenly, Harvin pressed a small device on his wrist. A flash of light blinked in the air. "Now," he whispered. High above, the palace received the signal. Fighters moved into position. The voice mirror activated. It sent a fake message back to the enemy ship's systems. The enemy ship believed thousands of fighters were approaching. Inside the chamber, alarms began to sound. "What have you done?" the machine shouted. Azera raised her arm. A light burst from her bracelet. It was a defense weapon, ancient and royal. She pointed it at the machine. "You will not control us," she said. Harvin moved fast. He threw a pulse charge at the machine's feet. It exploded with light and sound. Smoke filled the chamber. A hidden door opened behind them. A palace scout had entered the ship through a back gate. He waved them through. "Come, now," he said. They ran. The strange ship shook. Systems failed. The voice mirror had tricked the machine systems into crashing. As Azera and Harvin reached their ship, the machine's voice cried out, "You cannot escape truth. You carry the memory. We will return." Their ship flew out fast. The gates closed behind them. Fire exploded from part of the enemy ship. Fighters from the palace fired stun shots to slow it down. Back in orbit, the strange ship powered down. Its lights went dark. It drifted into space, empty and silent, for now. When Azera and Harvin returned to the palace, crowds filled the city streets. People cheered. Bells rang. The bond between the queen and the human had become more than a mistake. It had become a story of courage. In the royal garden, Azera and Harvin walked quietly. "You saved me again," she said. He smiled. "We save each other." She looked up at him. "The trial ends tomorrow," she said. "I know," Harvin replied. They stood together, not speaking. But in their silence, a new chapter was already beginning. Morning came with golden light over the palace towers. The sky above Zerine IV was clear. The strange enemy ship had left the system. The city was safe. People walked through the markets with hope again. Children laughed and played near the glowing fountains. The fear that once filled the air was gone. In the grand hall, the royal council gathered. The final day of the trial had arrived. All members wore their formal robes. The hall was quiet as Queen Azera entered through the main door. Harvin walked beside her. His simple clothes had been replaced by a fine dark robe, gifted by the palace. He looked different now, not just a visitor from another world, but someone with purpose. A long table stood at the center of the hall. At the head of it was the trial stone, a symbol of the queen's authority. Azera stood before it. Harvin stood behind her. Lord Saron stepped forward. "The trial of Bond has reached its final day," he said. "We must now decide. Is this Bond true or false, a mistake or destiny?" The room remained silent for a moment. Lady Venya spoke next. "We have seen many things. The sacred gesture was made by accident, yes, but since then, this human has acted with honor. He has stood with our queen, not behind her. He has protected her. He has fought beside her." Other council members nodded. One of the older nobles stood. "Long ago, I was against this. I believed no outsider could ever understand our ways. But today, I admit I was wrong. The bond is real. I see it now." Saron looked around. No one objected. Azera stepped forward. "I never expected this bond," she said. "I never planned it, but sometimes the strongest truths come without plan. Harvin came to our world by chance, but he chose to stay. He faced danger without fear, and he did not do it for power or reward. He did it because he cared." She turned to face Harvin. "I choose to honor this bond, not because I must, but because I want to." The hall remained silent. Harvin stepped beside her. He looked at the council and then at Azera. "I didn't know what I was doing when I made that gesture," he said. "But everything that happened after it changed me. I found something here I never had before. A place, a purpose, and a person who believes in me." He took Azera's hand. The hall watched in silence. "I want to stay," he said, "not just as a guest, but as someone who walks beside the queen." Every step forward. At that moment, the trial stone glowed with soft blue light. The sign of acceptance. The trial was complete. The bond was now official. The council stood as one. Hands were placed over hearts in the Zarini sign of respect. The people outside the hall had been waiting for the signal. When they saw the palace banners rise, they cheered. The city bells rang loud and clear. The queen and her bondmate had passed the final test. Later that evening, the palace held a celebration. Lights hung from the towers. Music echoed through the halls. Tables were filled with food from every corner of the kingdom. Visitors from other Zarini cities came to offer gifts. Even a few leaders from other species arrived to show their respect. Harvin stood in the garden, watching the stars. Azera joined him. "It's strange," he said. "How quickly everything changed. Change can be scary," she replied. "But sometimes it's the only way forward." They walked together along the glowing paths. The garden was full of flowers that opened only at night. They shined like tiny moons. "Do you ever wonder what comes next?" Harvin asked. "All the time," she said. "But I do not fear it, not anymore." He turned to her. "What will we do now?" She smiled. "We build, we lead, we protect, and we listen to our people." Together, he nodded. "I never thought I'd find a home in the stars," he said, "but I think I have." They stopped near the old fountain, the same place where they had once argued, once planned, once stood in silence. Now it was a place of peace. Azera reached out her hand. Harvin took it. No words were needed. In the weeks that followed, the palace returned to its normal rhythm. But everything had changed in small, quiet ways. Harvin began to study the Zarini language more deeply. He joined training with the palace guards. He learned their history, their ways, and their dreams. Azera invited him to council meetings, not as a guest, but as a voice. Together, they made plans for new relations with other worlds. They began building a program for peaceful exchange, inviting humans and Zarini to learn from each other. Even the old nobles who once doubted the bond now gave their support. The people of Zarine had seen something rare. Not just strength, but unity, and it had begun with a simple gesture. One hand on a shoulder, one heart open to the unknown. Far across the galaxy, in the dark corners where broken machines still whispered, the memory of Queen Azera and the human remained, but they would not return soon, because something had changed. The voice of control had felt something it could not understand, a bond that no logic could break. Back in the garden, under the soft light of 2 moons, Azera and Harvin sat side by side. "You saved my life once," she said softly. "I think you saved mine too," he replied. They smiled. The wind moved gently through the silver leaves, and somewhere deep inside both of them, they knew this was not the end. It was only the beginning.